General Milley, let me direct this to you. Did you ever advise in the interagency process that the rapid withdrawal timeline that the White House, the Pentagon signed off on, General Miller proposed, effectively getting us to zero by the middle of July, that would negatively impact any effort to get out our civilians? In other words, if we'd drawn down to zero by July, if we then had a civilian evacuation ordered, we'd be in a lot of trouble. Did you ever advise to that effect during the interagency process? Did you warn about that possibility of drawing down so quickly before a civilian evacuation was underway?
Yeah, but it's more complicated than that. The drawdown of the forces under Miller, those guys are advisors. They're not the NEO kind of guys. The NEO troops are Marine Expeditionary Unit, Special Purpose MAGTF, and elements of the 82nd Airborne Division. That's what you need in order to do the NEO. Those are the plans, I believe, that the Secretary is referring to that were developed early on. And there's specific triggers that are required, and the State Department calls the time of the NEO. Secretary, in fact, on the 12th of August, started pushing forward forces and orders, and on the 14th, the Ambassador Wilson, called the NEO. Should that have been called earlier? I think that's an open question that needs further exploration based on a series of meetings. But the April piece and the drawdown of the advisors, that's a separate and distinct task, and the retrograde of those forces. Those 2,500 advisors weren't the guys bringing out the American citizens anyway. Those were the advisors to the Afghan security forces. There were concerns that we raised throughout the interagency that when those advisors, if the advisors were to stay, then there's a possibility that the Afghan security forces would hang in there. We all knew that when we pulled the advisors out, when we pulled the money out, that at some point in the future, most said it was in the fall, that the Afghan security forces were going to fracture and the government would collapse. The speed at which that happens in August is a different animal. The advisors are already gone by mid-July. There is still a government. There is still an Afghan army. And the assumption was that it would remain, and the mission was to keep the embassy open, secure the embassy, transition that off to contractors, and then all the military would be out, and then it would be a diplomatic mission, and there'd be money and over-the-horizon thought. None of that happened because that army and that government collapsed very rapidly. As soon as those indicators came of fracture, Secretary Austin and others throughout the government executed and implemented a NEO plan for which there was contingencies that were built. There was a plan for a rapid collapse, and that was the NEO plan that General McKenzie had come up with, and that's what was executed. That's why those 6,000 troops could deploy as rapidly as they did. That's why all those aircraft showed up. That wasn't done without planning. That was done with planning, and that was done from an operational and tactical standpoint. That was a success. Strategically, the war is lost. The enemy's in Kabul, so that you have a strategic failure while you simultaneously have an operational and tactical success by the soldiers on the ground. So I think we're conflating some things that we need to separate in this after-action review process so that we clearly understand what exactly happened. And I'm sorry for taking all that time, but I thought it was necessary.